Keep it dry. What are you kidding? I'm in a leaky can at the bottom of the ocean. How am I supposed to keep it dry? Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by once again, coming at you from one of my famed movie slash Blu-ray reviews. Today I'll be reviewing the movie and Blu-ray of DeepStar Six. What's this say? Not all aliens come from space. I'm pretty sure the tagline I know is "Save your last breath to scream" or something like that. I don't know. It seems like maybe there's more than one tagline. Is that from DeepStar Six? Yeah, because an alien was in space, no one can hear you scream. So I think it might be, the one I'm familiar with is "Save your last breath to scream," whatever. So I'm pretty sure I reviewed this movie years ago, freaking sitting in a lake. But obviously since the Blu-ray recently came out last year, sometime towards the end of last year, I thought I could review the movie again and talk about the recently released, still kind of recently released Blu-ray that came out by Kino Lorber with quite a bit of special features for Kino Lorber and a nice slipcover as well. So I'll talk about the movie briefly, and then I'll talk about the release on Blu-ray from Kino Lorber from last year. So my history with DeepStar Six goes all the way back to basically when this movie had its ad campaign on TV. I remember it being a kid. I think it was late '88, early '89, whatever. I'm seeing on TV a little TV spot for this movie where the only thing I can remember is this guy climbing through the hatch and the hatch coming down on the guy. And my memory of it was that it was much more gory than it is in the final movie. It almost, in my 11-year-old memory, it was kind of like the thing cut him in half and blood squirted all over the place. Not that they even showed that on a TV spot on TV anyway, but that was kind of my kid's idea of what happened. And then it's funny seeing the movie. It's just kind of like lands on his stomach and that's it. But so this is a movie I knew about since right around the time it came out theatrically. I want to say this came out in January in the theater in 1989. This isn't a movie we'd end up going to see in the theater, but I would end up seeing it on home video relatively recently in 1989 in the summer after it came out on home video, and something that became instantly classic to 12-year-old me, and just something that I loved from day one. It should be said, of course, that 1989 was the year of the 3 underwater blockbuster movies, or I guess maybe the one underwater blockbuster movie in Deep Star Six. And I've always said every time I mention these 3 movies is that it's kind of funny how all these underwater movies came out in 1989 and they're released in the order of the budget, like the smallest budget first, which is Deep Star Six. And then the second bigger budget is Leviathan, and then the biggest budget, and I think it was the most expensive movie ever made, and the last one to be released was The Abyss, of course. And I got a special place in my heart for Deep Star Six. It's not an amazing movie or whatever. It's like a 50s monster movie taking place underwater or whatever. This is directed by Sean S. Cunningham, and of course you've got Harry Manfredini doing the music. And Harry Manfredini does a really great. Obviously, I love pretty much what he does on the Friday the 13th films more or mostly, but I think what he does in this movie, music-wise, is really good as well. Obviously, if you don't know, this premise is an underwater movie, and it features a base of like a bunch of these Navy people that are working on this underground missile platform for the Navy. Or underwater, I should say, missile platform for the Navy. They're gonna build this all-important missile platform under the ocean so they can, do a surprise attack on Russia or whoever the hell they need to in the distant future. So that's the premise of this movie. This small group of Navy people are basically living for, I think it's like, 6 months? I think it was supposed to be 4 months, and ended up being like 6 months, half a year, doing this underwater freaking, missile platform project or whatever. And, just before, when they're getting ready to put down the missile platform or whatever, they realize that what they're going to put it on is actually really like underneath the ground of where they want to put the missile platform is a big huge cave and big area underneath. So they actually explode in their process of trying to place the missile platform and to explode this little cavern, or so they can put it further down and have it on solid land. They explode this huge, cavern or whatever, and basically release the mutant monster, which, we don't see. This is a low-budget movie, so we don't really see the mutant monster until like the last third of the movie or whatever. But I guess just like with Jaws or whatever, the majority of the movie kind of leaves it up to your imagination. I will say, you don't have to see it from right from the very beginning. So I'm not complaining about that, but I am saying that if you're expecting, I mean, this is a movie from like 1989, so if you're expecting all kinds of amazing special effects or whatever, just keep your expectations realistic or whatever. But that's the premise of this movie. This movie features this one guy. I wasn't watching My Two Dads much, but I think I can remember thinking the girl on it was cute or something like that. But if you know anything about the TV show from the late '80s, My Two Dads, one of the dads is one of the stars in this movie, along with Nancy Everhard. You gotta love that last name. They're the kind of the main characters, and then you've got is it Miguel Ferrer, or it's either him or his dad. I can't remember which one of them is called Miguel, but the guy from RoboCop who snorts the cocaine with a couple of models and gets his legs blown up and gets his body blown up. That guy is a year later in this movie, and the gorgeous braless Nia Peoples, of course, and this Matt McCoy, who'd go on to be in the only two movies I've seen Matt McCoy in are DeepStar Six and frickin' Abominable, and there's probably some other faces in there as well and stuff like that. But you've got all these people who are working on this project, and by doing so, they unleash this big, huge it's actually not that big. I mean, it's kind of pathetic how it seems bigger in the beginning of the movie, and that it ends up being able to fit through this small opening and just kind of live in this small area. And the size seems to be big when it needs to be menacing, and small when it needs to be able to fit through spaces and stuff like that. But having just rewatched it again, the movie's kind of, if you're like ADHD and need all Michael Bay kind of crap happening all the time, you might not like it. One thing I do like, but I like that about it. I like the fact that it builds slowly and kind of does its best to create some character drama and this and that, of which I'll just spare you and won't go into details with. But I respect its slow build and kind of getting the characters known and developing a little bit of characters for you to actually care about when they start dying. I think it works relatively well. The slow build I actually respect and stuff like that, so I'm not complaining about that. So the scenario, I mean, I've always liked how it worked, and their releasing of the huge, I keep saying huge, it's really not that big, this underwater sea monster. Of course, most sea monsters are going to be in the sea, aren't they, after all? So the sea monster's in the sea, underwater sea monster, and all I can think, I'm trying to do this review, and Nia Peoples in that braless in that tank top keeps coming back to mind. But so she's kind of, the image of her is kind of distracting me from actually shooting this review. But I mean, I guess that's pretty much all I really got to say about it. It's funny how the situation, the monster is released, and the situation gets just dire and dire and dire. And what's so funny, and one of the things I love about this movie is I don't know when the hell it is, if it's like the hour point of the movie, like, 2/3 into the movie, where it's like, okay, well, people are dying, the monster's out, we can't complete the missile platform, so we're just gonna decompress and get the hell out of here. And then this one guy, I gotta get his name right. Yeah, so it's the guy from RoboCop is Miguel Ferrer. So that guy is told to secure the missiles. And what I love about it is he doesn't know, he screws up and basically ends up blowing up the missiles because of just some computer program. I would have asked before I would have just done it, but his character is kind of belittled and bullied throughout the movie, so I don't think he wanted to ask for help because they would even belittle him and bully him more. That's one of the the competent plot points of this movie, is they kind of set this Miguel Ferrer's character up as this guy who's belittled and bullied by the other characters, which leads to the reason why he didn't ask for help when he was doing his securing of the missiles, which actually makes, and it's kind of understandable, his screw up, why he accidentally, he picks the wrong option and accidentally blows the missiles up thinking that he's quote unquote securing them. So that, they were just about to abandon the project because the monster is loose and decompress and go up back to the surface, but this guy, quote unquote, securing the missiles ends up creating more problems for them. I really like the scenario, as I'm talking about the movie, I really like the scenario, and the scenario is kind of realistic, where the biggest problem isn't necessarily the monster, it's this guy who's thinking he's securing the missiles by blowing them up, and because you blow them up so close to where your underwater base is, you're obviously creating a shock wave that compromises the base, so you become a situation where you're losing your oxygen and you're unable to decompress, and you've got to solve this problem and solve this problem and solve this problem in order to have air left and or be able to decompress to get to the surface. So it's funny how the majority of the problems really aren't caused by the monster. It's more man-made problems, which is kind of realistic in that aspect. So I think that's pretty much all I'll say about DeepStar Six. It's a movie that's near and dear to my heart. I saw it for the very first time in the summer '89 when I was a 12-year-old, and just life was good, and frickin' monster movie, and I don't know, I can only assume I knew that it was the guy who did the first Friday the 13th, Sean S. Cunningham. I don't know how much I read credits back in those days, but I'll give the movie, I don't know if it deserves this, but I'll give it three stars out of 4 stars for DeepStar Six. It's like I say, if you haven't seen it, keep your expectations realistic. It's a low budget movie from 1989, the first of 3 underwater movies and the lowest budget of all 3, so keep your expectations realistic. Now on to the Kino Lorber Blu-ray release from 2020 that came out. I want to say it was like October of 2020 or something like that. When this was announced, I was really excited because I've been a fan of this movie pretty much ever since it came out, and it just always brings me back to my childhood and stuff. So it was really great when this was actually announced, and I was very excited. And as you can see, my particular version or release of it came with a slipcase, slipcover. I don't know, obviously I can't promise that everyone who buys this online or Amazon or whatever is going to get the slipcover, but mine came with the slipcover. And if you look on the back here, there's quite a few special features for Kino Lorber. You've got audio commentary with director Sean S. Cunningham and visual effects supervisor James Isaac. And since James Isaac was purported to have died quite a long time ago, I can only assume that this is an old commentary, possibly for an international release or something like that. Then it's really cool. You've got audio commentary with screenwriters Louis Abernathy and Geoff Miller, isolated score selections, and audio interview with composer Harry Manfredini. You can just read these other special features if you guys so choose. So it's really packed with special features. Just because if you've watched several of my reviews and stuff, you'll know that I don't have much time or even necessarily interest to really delve into all these commentaries and extra special features and stuff. I think pretty much all I did was, from the deep, some of these interviews and stuff like that, which were pretty fun. Not a big, huge deal, but from my experience with Kino Lorber, they really didn't usually have all that many special features. So this particular release is actually just chock full of special features. So that's a really cool aspect of this particular release. Obviously the only way I've ever watched DeepStar Six from, 1989 being VHS and later on the DVD that came out was just the kind of the full frame home video version, if you will. And I can only assume that this was shot in that Super 35mm that James Cameron often used, because the quote-unquote full frame version I grew up with all the way until this particular Blu-ray release, when you compare it to the Blu-ray release, you're seeing more on top and bottom on that full frame version and less on the sides. And when you look at this version, which is kind of the more wide Panavision aspect ratio, you're actually seeing less on the top and bottom, and then you're seeing more on the sides. So I can only assume it's that Super 35. And I will say, in some aspects it's better, in some aspects it's worse. Having experienced the movie that full screen way for I don't know what, almost, if not 30 years, close to 30 years, it is a little jarring to go to this, this more Panavision kind of aspect ratio. But, whatever. There was some mistakes in screw-ups and stuff that you weren't supposed to see in that full frame version that are now covered up in this version, but then there's some things that I liked seeing in that version that are now covered up also in this version. So it's hit or miss or whatever. The transfer obviously is probably an older transfer. I can only assume they did an international release of this, which maybe they recorded the commentary for years and years ago or whatever. But the transfer, I don't know. I mean, it gets the job done, but as you guys may or may not know, I'm a big grain guy. From what I can remember about this transfer, it's not huge on grain. I want to say the Possible the contrast wasn't all that amazing. This movie, I think this particular release is probably just DTS two-channel sound, is two-channel stereo surround as far as I know. One thing I noticed, having only experienced that initial North American VHS and or DVD release, is that it seemed like it was more prevalent, pretty much only prevalent in some of the Miguel Ferrer scenes. It seemed like the pitch, the audio pitch of his voice in some scenes was higher than it had been in the releases that I've been familiar with before. So as far as the audio goes, it might be, see, the thing is, you don't know if the pitch was too low in that version I've been watching up until now, and this is corrected, or if it was correct that version and incorrect in this one. Really not a huge deal. Seems to me some of the music cues in the original release, the tape and or DVD, had some of the music almost seemed like it was like wobbly in the the original North American release on on VHS and DVD, and I think that's fixed here. I don't think any of the music is wobbly on this particular release, so that's an improvement. Like I say, it's hard to know where the pitch is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be like this, or is it supposed to be as it was originally released? It's hard to say. It's possible that this is the way it's supposed to be, but I watched it once last year when I got it, and I just rewatched it this year. And although it's that pitch thing, which is different, with like some of the Miguel Ferrer scenes, it is a different compared to the original release. This, seeing it a second time wasn't all that big a deal. Like more of like kind of how it was when I first saw it. So it's really not that big a deal. Underneath the slipcover, you will find the same artwork there. This release, just like so many releases of its kind, features reversible cover art option. You've got the option for this particular cover art, or this cover art, which is cover art I've never seen before. I can only assume this was either alternate North American cover art, or maybe it's European or international cover art, or Europoopin, I don't know. I don't know. I can't imagine this is, new art for it just seems like it's alternate cover art or whatever. Regardless, it's cover art that I've never seen before, but it's kind of cool to give you the option of this particular cover art if you so choose. I mean, it's not very realistic, or it doesn't really, the underwater vessel or the monster doesn't really look like it does in the finished movies, so it's not really cover art that I'm going to necessarily go with. Obviously, I'm more interested in the the cover art that's featured on the slipcase and stuff like that, because that's the North American cover art that I'm familiar with. But obviously you've got the option for this cover art if you so choose. I mean, it is kind of cool for being something different, I guess, but feel free to let me know what cover art you like the best. And as I'm battling the end of the day low light situation here, to wrap up the video, we will showcase what the Kino Lorber Blu-ray looks like in the case there. One thing I will say about the releases is I guess their disc art leaves a little bit to be desired. Not the most amazing disc art, but I'm not going to be too picky. I'm so grateful for their having released such an amazing Blu-ray edition in North America of DeepStar 6 with more recent scan and the special features. So I'm not going to hate on them too much. Hope you guys enjoyed my little review of DeepStar 6 movie and recently released Blu-ray release by Kino Lorber. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
The docking bay's coming in. The other people, passengers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So should we load them? Is it clear?
Yes, it will be clear.
I'll go get them in. Okay, shut the airlock. So, welcome to DeepStar 7.
Yes. I heard you guys are doing very fine.
Six was destroyed.
How was 6 destroyed?
I don't know. Creature came and destroyed. So, well, what are your orders, sir?
We should put a plastic thing on it, on DeepStar 7, for it's impossible to destroy.
Okay,
And-
sir, we'll get to that.
Okay, have the people, are the new people aboard?
The new people to come aboard?
Yeah. Are
Okay.
they here?
No, we gotta
Okay.
call them.
Okay. And we should have a man in a big suit patrolling around the station all night, all day, switch off. Okay?
Okay.
That should be all.
What do you want done for? Well, we'll call the people and have them come first.
Yes, I would like, no, I'd rather have the plastic put on first.
Okay. Get to that.
Obviously, you guys know that this release comes with that cool slip cover, and this is what's, once you take the slip cover off, this is what's under. Jesus Christ, I'm panicked because the fucking sun is getting dark.
Want to print something? Do you like making logos?
What's that?
Like on TV, like making logos.
Yeah.
Let's make a DeepStar 6 logo. I'll show you how we make it.
Why, do you like DeepStar 6?
Huh?
Do you like DeepStar 6 a lot?
Yeah!
God, I can't even ask a question without you
Well,
yelling.
what do you think?
No.